You're listening to LVB Podcast Show with your friend, advocate, and host, Alvaro.
Hello and welcome to LVB Show. My name is Salvador and I'm very happy to be with you tonight. Well, it's been some time since I was able to do the show, but we are back. And we are back with Dilon from Kenya in Africa. He is blind and he has a lot to tell us, that's for sure. Thank you, Dilon, for being with us tonight.
Welcome.
The first question that comes to mind is, how did you lose your sight, Dilon?
Okay, I lost my sight as a result of measles, which attacked me when I was very young. Yeah, and it resulted to my loss of sight.
Can you tell us where were you born?
I was born in a town called Kisumu in Kenya.
How was life growing up?
Okay, when I was growing up, I can say, first of all, it took me quite some time to adapt, and so after I was now visually impaired, I was taken to a school, a special school. So I was there, but what made me to overcome the challenge is that I could see other people who were visually impaired, and they were adapting very well. So I said I was also prepared to do the same. The only problem was with the people who could see. They could not understand. They could not understand how people who are visually impaired operate. So they would stand by the road. They look at me when I'm walking. They are filled with a lot of sympathy and such kind of things. Yeah, that's what I can say.
And Dilon, what do you do for a living today?
Today I am a teacher. I was duly employed by the government of Kenya, and I teach in a school here where I live, in a place called Wioma.
Do you use a cane?
Yeah, I use a cane.
And it's very good, right?
Yeah, it works very good.
How would you say are the services for the blind in Kenya?
What I can say is that there are some organizations. There are some organizations that claim to help people who are blind, though to some extent they do assist to some extent. As from 2014, I can say they are working, but back there they were not doing what they claimed to be doing.
Tell us a little bit about the technology that you use, and tell us a little bit about how expensive or cheap it is for our listeners living in other countries that they don't know.
Okay, first of all, I like following up on matters technology. Currently, as we are speaking, I'm using my iPad.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm using my iPad. And the iPad assists me a lot because apart from it, I have an Android phone. I was using a Samsung Galaxy, which goes for something like 10,000 Kenyan shillings. That is something like $100 or so. So the touch screen, I can say it's good, but to type very fast is a problem. So when I want to text, I have connected my iPad to my phone in a way so that I text on my iPad using the Apple wireless keyboard, and then when I press send, the information is transferred to the phone, and so the phone is the one that is going to send the message. So it's going to appear with my phone number, and when someone sends a reply, the phone is going to route the text message to my iPad. I'm going to read with my iPad and then reply with the iPad again.
Wow, I didn't I didn't know about that kind of technology. How did you configure that, Dylan?
I used some application. There's an application called My SMS. I take the Android part of it and the one from the App Store, the Apple App Store. So after installing both the apps, I'm going to use them to connect to each other.
Oh, wow.
So the messages are going to be transferred to the iPad, and then I'm going to use the iPad as if I'm sending the message from my phone.
So it's easy to do, right, for people?
Yeah, it's very good. It's very easy, in fact.
Oh, wow. That's a great thing to know, Dylan, because there's many people out there that have an Android phone that may be halfway accessible, you could say, and they may have a more accessible tablet, and they
Yeah.
may be able to do something like that. I wonder, Dylan, does it have to be one Apple, the other Android, or could it be an Android tablet and an Android phone?
It can be an Android tablet and an Android phone. It can be an Android phone and a Windows PC phone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And how did you learn to do this?
You see, I bought a new phone. It's a Lenovo A1000. The keyboard was pretty not accessible, so I decided, is there some way that I can chat on my iPad? Then I started googling things up and down. Then, by good luck, I came up with such kind of information. Then I tried, and it worked.
Dylan, do you agree with me that sometimes people get a little bit lazy when it comes to doing research to find out how to use their devices? Because I receive, for listeners, many emails from people
Yeah.
telling me, I would like to know if this application works or not. And my question, Dylan, is, okay, if you're asking that and you have the application, why you don't try it? You know what I mean? Hello, you know. And
You
and
see, I also wonder, because every day people call me to ask me questions, and some things are just you can explore. A phone is not going to get spoiled if you explore.
right,
It's not going to be spoiled.
right, right, and it happens everywhere. You know, I receive messages from the U.S., from the U.K., from Canada, from Australia, right here from Colombia, and it's people that they say, you know what, do it for me. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah,
I understand.
and for our listeners, I'm happy to help, but it's important because, listen to what Dylan is doing. Dylan is not in Silicon Valley. You know, Dylan is working from Kenya in Africa, which has limitations like we have in Colombia limitations, and we are able to do the research for ourselves and for others. And you, dear listener, could do the same because it's important, Dylan, and you are a teacher, you know better than I do, that people need to learn to do things from their own. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree.
It's important for us to be independent, to get into our computers, to get into our phones, into our tablets, and research and get knowledge. Knowledge is priceless, and we are able to help other people. But sometimes people tell me, I'm kind of lazy about it, and I say, yeah, it's fair enough, but we need to get out of our comfort zone and do things for us and for others. So I'm happy to help always, but it's important. Look at what Dylan did. Dylan, instead of saying, I'm not able to do things, he just start to explore, start to research, and look what he found out. My SMS, a great app for our listeners on the App Store, on the Windows Store, and on the Google Play Store to help himself be more productive. So I think that is a great message you are sending to people everywhere.
Yeah.
And I am very excited to hear the internet connection there is pretty good. Can you tell us what happened with that?
Now, first of all, the other time I was in a place, as I told you, I was in Nairobi in a place called Kasarani, and the network there was not very good. So it's just a matter of partnering up with the service provider. And when I came here also, I did the same. I partnered with them, and they constructed a cell site. That's why internet is very, very good.
Wow, yeah, I'm very amazed with that because in many countries it's not so great. So, yeah, that's a good example to follow. And I'd like to ask you, you were talking about $100 for a smartphone. How pricey is the iPhone there?
An iPhone here is, in fact, they are very expensive, and only a few people have them. The last time I checked, the cheapest one was like $300 or so, 30,000 Kenyan shillings.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Now, for someone interested in learning more about Kenya for people who are visually impaired or totally blind, how can you tell people what to visit or how accessible are the streets? How helpful are people with that?
What I can say, the streets, it depends with the place.
Mm-hmm.
For example, in Nairobi, the streets are very accessible, especially if you can use the maps, the Google map, and such kind of technological advances. It is very navigable. But now, when you come to some places, the map does not report the streets correctly. So that's a very big challenge. Unless you use some maps that have that can record directly the map from, for example, you go somewhere, you save it, you go to another place, you save it. So when you want to go, you're just going to retrieve the map. For example, there's one called Seeing Eye.
Right.
Yeah, Seeing Eye. It has such kind of a capability. The only problem is that it's very, very expensive.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's very expensive. But
That's
can you
the
do
problem.
that with Google Maps? I hear you can save your your places or your routes. Can you do that?
The only problem is that the last time I tried to use Google Map,
Yeah.
it was in, when was it? In May.
Okay.
It was not very accessible on my iPad.
Really?
So yeah, it was not very accessible on my iPad. So I kind of abandoned it.
So in your case, Lon, you're using Seeing Eye to follow your route in your town?
I Anyway, this place I'm using Seeing Eye GPS.
Okay. Okay.
Though there's something else that came up. It's called Be My Eyes. I think it's something also very great that's worth trying.
Yes, I have to say for our listeners, I did interview the developer of the app,
Yeah,
and it's fantastic. I have tried here in Colombia. It works great. And for our
yeah,
listeners, before Dylan tell us how he used that, I'm gonna tell you for our listeners, I had in my computer screen some text and I was not able to read it, and my Zoom text failed. So I was very worried about it. So I I went into my iPhone and I went into Be My Eyes. I request this help in real time, and this great person came up. So I pointed the iPhone camera to the screen of my computer and I said, "Look, can you read the text to me, please?" And he was able to read it back to me. And he told me there is a part of the screen that you can click and this message is going to go away. I did that and I was able to return to Zoom text. So that was fantastic and it's absolutely free and it works everywhere in the world, as Dylan is going to tell us. How did you use it?
I used it to install a copy of Windows on my PC. So I first downloaded the app, then I initiated a request. So I asked the person if he could read for me the screen. The person assisted me until I was able to install the the copy of Windows that I wanted to install, and Be My Eyes really helped me a lot.
And it could be used when you are walking if you do not have Seeing Eye or Google Maps
Yeah,
is failing.
it can be used when you are walking. It can be used very, very well. It works.
Now, our listeners may be thinking, okay, he lives in Africa, and many people, Dylan, have the wrong impression about how Africa is developing very fast. Africa, many countries, the US, the UK, China, are investing money in technology, in infrastructure in Africa. And many people think if I go to Africa, I'm not going to have even cellular signal. I'm not going to have internet. Tell us how that has changed and evolved in Africa.
In fact, there is internet here, there's cellular, and we have this roaming services. Our service providers are partnering with other service providers from other countries.
Oh,
So if you go, you are just going to switch your network and it's going to work very well. Recently,
yeah.
we switched to 4G internet.
Really?
Yeah, we switched to 4G internet and it's working very, 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 it's very impressive, if I can say.
Yeah, I can notice that, my friend.
Yeah.
In for people traveling to Kenya, would you be able to say the internet connection is um, is just all over Kenya, or are certain areas that you say it's complicated?
There are some places that the internet is not there.
Okay, okay,
So that depends with where you are going.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Though now they are working to spread the service
every,
all over the country.
do you know if Google is doing anything related to that?
I have not heard of anything touch connected to Google and the internet in Kenya. The last time I heard is that they partnered with one service provider to bring free internet.
Oh,
So you could search for things on Google for free. But now when you leave the Google zone, you are going to be charged.
okay, okay. But
Yeah.
but but you know, for our listeners and for you, Delon, and myself, how incredible is the advancement of technology in places that a few years ago would be impossible to think about it, including remote areas in Colombia. You know, we are becoming very connected, and in Africa they are doing the same, and that is wonderful. You know, because
Yeah, that.
it gives access to everybody to everything, as we should have, Delon, in this day and age.
Mm. We believe here in Kenya that knowledge is power.
Indeed, I think that is a wonderful way to put it. It's
So when the internet is present, you can just any information that you want, you can read, and you get the knowledge. It's going to help you in a way or the other.
Yeah, and it's gonna help tremendously in education, right?
Yeah.
Do you know, Delon, if there is any university in Africa in general, as a continent, where you
Yeah.
can take classes online for people that live in an area that they don't have a university?
Pardon?
Is there any way for people in Africa to go to college online without going to in person?
Yeah. Oh, you see, I went to Kenyatta University myself, and they offered online
Co-
learning.
oh,
Yeah, they offer the online platform. You just sit at home, and then you just get material on.
wow, how nice.
You get. Yeah.
Um, what would you say, Delon, is missing still in Kenya for someone who is visually impaired?
Hello?
Yes. What?
That was my iPad was making some.
Oh, it was playing around. Ah.
Yeah.
That happens with technology, my friend. um, I was asking if you could choose one thing to improve
Yeah.
for
Mhm.
people with visual impairments in Kenya, the access of something that you would say, oh, I wish they had more access to this, or I wish we had more possibilities in this area. What would you say is still missing?
To tell you the truth, what I can say is that many of them still are being kept at home. If they could access, if there could be a way that they can be taken out to access education, it can be very good so that they can become independent.
And how could you do that, Delon? What do you think? You mean there's still for the places that they don't have access to the internet, you mean?
Yeah, there are some places where there's no internet, so information is very limited in such places.
I see.
Yeah.
And tell me something, Dilon. How is, in general, the visually impaired population in Kenya? How do you think they feel emotionally? Because I was saying this in the United States when I go there, that sometimes people take for granted the importance of the emotional state of the person with any disability. Um, we have to feel good inside, and we need to be okay with our brains before we can get out and be independent, because our brains are absolutely essential for achieving anything in life. And I know that very well myself, because when you are diagnosed with maybe an eye disease, or maybe you have an accident and you become blind one day, then the first thing that you need to do is to become powerful inside. You need to be okay emotionally. If not, you can have an iPad, an iPhone, you can have whatever it may be with technology. You are not going to make anything happen. And I know many cases of that nature, Dilon. How is the population of Kenya emotionally when it comes to having a visual disability?
The what I can say is that the problem actually comes especially when the disability has occurred. For example, you see, what I can say is that here in Kenya, the major cause for disability, especially for the people who have grown up, is I can say is, how can I put it? Illegal. This illegal. They take alcohol, which is illegal, which is mixed with methanol.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
In Colombia it happens too, and they become blind.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So that is a major cause of blindness,
Wow.
adulthood blindness in Kenya. So in such cases, the problem is they usually have a very bad emotional state.
Right.
Yeah. So even accepting that something has happened is usually a very hard thing for them.
And for you, you told me you had this situation where you became blind, but it was not out of an eye disease. It was just something that happened. And how how did you react to it? How were you able to cope and transform your life?
Okay, me, first of all, what helped me was, the first thing is that I was very young. So by that, adapting is very easy.
Right.
And secondly, I went to a school and almost everyone was blind. So that also gave me another. I saw that I'm not alone. There are also others here with the same situation and condition. It also placed me at a very good spot, if I can say. So I did adapt very easily. And then another thing is that the people I was living with, my family, they took very good care of me, and so they issued me the support I needed.
That is very important for listeners, the support of the family, and and certainly your support team, as they say. That's very, very important. But
Yeah.
also the attitude is very important, Elon. Not everybody reacts the same way to this kind of situation. You still had to overcome many obstacles yourself.
Of course I did. And in fact, I had a friend that my friend had a very big problem, and he came to me. His family was very unwelcoming to him, so they disliked him a lot, and it cost him a lot of problems. So he lived a very miserable life, so to say. He only found comfort when he came to school, but when it was time to go home, then it was like he was going to hell.
Yeah, certainly. There's all kinds of cases that we see, right? It's
Yeah.
um, and when we are able to help them, it's all a better world, as they say. Um, and I will before I go into the teaching area because I wanna I'm sure our listeners wanna learn about that. Um, is there any Android phone you are able to recommend people? In other words, are you gonna change your phone or you're gonna stick with it for a few months or years? Or what do you think?
You see, I am someone who likes exploring, so I usually change my phones. So that I can see the best phones that are accessible,
Right.
so that if someone asks the phone from if someone asks the phone that I can recommend, I just know the best phone. I just compare the budget that that person has, and I see the best phone that the person can buy. So that's why I usually exchange my phones frequently.
Oh, so
Yeah.
it's gonna happen again, right?
Yeah, in fact, it's more. I'll change more than once.
Did you see the conference of Google with the new Pixel phone?
The new?
Yeah.
No, I did not hear you
Okay.
properly.
New Google phone that it has is coming up.
Yeah, I googled the phones that are coming up, and then I see the specs, and then I look for one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
referring to the new Google phone. Um, that is a new brand, Pixel, I think it's called, from Google, and it's gonna be released in a few days. Uh,
I haven't heard of it.
oh, okay. Well,
Maybe may- maybe I'll check on it tonight.
I'm gonna tell you about it, and you can Google it for a lack of a better word because it's from Google. um, the phone is Pixel, I think it's called Pixel, something like that, and the phone tries to compete with the Samsung Galaxy and with the iPhone and with Motorola as well. In my view, Dylan, the phone is all right. The price is terrible because it's near $600, so it's pretty much like the iPhone, really. And the I mean, it's good in the sense that it has a good camera and all of that, but it doesn't give you, in my view, a plus to buy it compared to the iPhone or Motorola or Samsung. To me, it fails short. I would like to hear your opinions once you check it out, because I don't think has been released. It's going to be released, I think, in a few days. But it was already launched. It was already presented by Google a few days ago. And by looking at the BBC experts that they were talking about it, they said it's a good phone, but it's nothing spectacular. So for that price, I was expecting something much, much better. So if Google is listening, you have to do better, my friend, because Apple is doing very well. um, I had to say that, Delon. um, as you know, Delon, I have an iPhone. I'm very happy about it, and I still think is the most accessible smartphone in the market for now. I know things are going to improve, and Android has improved, but it still has to do some work in making things more how would I say that? More universal is the word. You know, if you have an Android phone and but you don't have a certain phone, you don't have the same accessibility. You know how it goes because I have friends that have that struggle sometimes. Um, I would like to go back to the teaching, Dylan. What are you teaching people right now?
I am teaching in a primary school. I am a teacher of English, and I can say history.
Oh, how nice.
Yeah.
And why do you know a little bit of Spanish? Because for our listeners, we have been friends for some years with Dylan,
I
and he speaks Spanish.
I I developed. I just developed an interest in Spanish. You see, we usually watch these Mexican soaps.
Really, soap operas.
Yeah,
Really, how funny.
they are dubbed in English, but the theme songs, the music is still
That's fun.
is still in Spanish. So I developed an interest. I wanted to know what are these people singing, because I could see they are singing very interestingly. I liked the music, so I wanted to know what these people are singing. So I decided to take online classes
Oh,
on Spanish.
how funny. Okay, so tell us something in Spanish, my friend.
Like what? Like what?
Hola, hola.
Hola.
¿Cómo estás?
Estoy muy bien.
Oh, you see, our listeners, he says he's very good, huh? That's great. You know, Dylan, I think you're giving a great example for people everywhere because you like to learn. You like to explore in knowledge, in understanding new things, and we all should do that. We all should do that. I love that curiosity that you have about life. I do have that myself. I learned to speak English on my own without taking any classes. So that's why it's so important to keep learning and become curious about what is around you. Um, I have this curious question for you, Dylan, and is what kind of food do you eat in Kenya? Tell us examples of food that you eat there.
Here in Kenya, there's a food called ugali.
Ugali.
It's the staple food of here in Kenya.
What does it
It is,
contain?
eh?
What does it have inside? What does it is?
In fact, it's just maize flour, and then it's maize flour that has been cooked with water, and then it forms something like, how can I explain? You know plasticine, the modeling clay, plasticine.
Oh, I think I do. I think I do. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that.
Oh,
Yeah, and it's served hot together with some vegetables, and we have some very nice vegetables here.
oh, I bet you do, my friend.
The-
I bet you do.
yeah, the only problem is I don't know how they are called in English.
No problem. But um, do you eat eggs and meat or not so much?
Yeah, we do eat eggs, meat, and chicken.
Oh, oh.
Yeah, we do eat even potatoes.
I'm getting hungry, Dylan.
The Irish potatoes.
The famous Irish potatoes. And do you like
Yeah,
rice?
I do
Oh, not too.
do very much.
And, and and to drink, what do you drink besides water? Do you drink, I don't know, wine or Coke? I don't know.
We have tea.
Oh, tea. Oh,
Tea is very famous. You see, Kenya is one of the leading exporters of tea.
oh, I didn't know. Oh,
Yeah, now you know.
yes.
It's in fact, if not the second, the third one after India and Sri Lanka. So you can imagine tea is very popular here. Every morning when we wake up, if you don't have a cup of tea, you just feel as if the day is not going to be the way it should be.
Oh, so Dylan, it's like coffee in the United States, for instance.
Yeah, it's
Great.
like coffee in the United States.
And well, our listeners may be thinking, well, how about Colombia? And I said, okay, no, yeah, I mean, obviously coffee is big here, but funny enough, Dylan, people
Yeah.
drink as much coffee as they do in the United States. Not at all. That is funny, right? Because Colombia is one of the biggest producers, but we
Yeah.
drink as many coffee. I think we have changed the culture a little bit, so it's not as huge as it should be, supposedly. um, I have a question, Dylan, about
Yeah.
the weekly groceries. I was
Yeah.
talking to a friend in Mexico, and maybe you don't know this, Dylan, but the minimum wage in Mexico is very similar to the minimum wage in Colombia. I didn't know that.
Mm.
When it comes to Kenya, can you tell us about that and how much can it cost to buy food? Because, for instance, the meat in Mexico is as expensive as in Colombia. To put it to you, is gonna be about I would say 15 to 20, $25 to buy meat. How is it in Kenya?
Now, now, if I can ask, how is meat the measurement?
Oh yeah,
The measurement.
that's a great question.
Yeah.
Sorry, yes. It's because I don't buy the meat. I'm not an expert so much. But in kilos, 1 kilo, 1 kilo.
Oh, because 1 kilo here,
Yeah,
if that one costs like $15 to $20, that I can see that is very expensive.
very expensive here or there?
Here, there.
Really?
Hey, that is very expensive.
Why? How is it there?
Here,
Yeah,
a kilo of meat goes for $3.
$3?
Yeah, a kilo of meat goes for $3.
What kind of meat?
Beef.
Beef. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what is very expensive here. Oh my God. And pork, you have pork?
Pork we have.
How much?
Pork is now cheaper than meat.
Really?
Yeah, a kilo is $2.
Oh my God. I need to go to Kenya, my listeners. I'm a big fan of meat. I know, Dylan, I should not eat too much meat. I know.
Yeah.
But meat is very good when you are able to get it. Oh my God, that is so cheap compared to here. Oh.
Hey, I wonder. I thought that things like that are cheap there.
No. And for instance, eggs, how expensive is 12 eggs, a dozen of eggs?
A dozen of eggs. No, we sell eggs in a tray has 30 eggs.
Okay.
It's the same, it's $3 because it's 300 shillings.
$3, 30 eggs?
Yeah.
You're kidding me.
An egg goes for 10 shillings. Yeah. That is like $0.1.
Dylan, I have a question. I know you will not be able to answer this, but I know
Yeah,
our listeners will be able to answer this as they listen to your answer.
yeah.
Um, Living in such a nice country where everything is right there. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, yeah.
Because if you go to New York, obviously it's not the same. The quality of food is not as good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
So you agree that you are in a way privileged to live in a country where nature is right there, that you're able to get the eggs from the farms. You know what I mean? It's things are
Yes,
right?
I understand. You see, what happens in Kenya is that we have farms, and many people really keep this chicken, and they keep cows for meat. So that's why,
That's why, yeah.
yeah, that's why
The
it's
quality is
very,
good. I mean, eating eggs there must be unbelievable. That must be a dream. Powerful.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You're used to that, my friend, but here is not as good. Because I live in,
Here,
big city here, so food is not the same.
mm, here when I wake up, my breakfast,
Oh my God.
my breakfast contains eggs, bread,
Ooh.
and tea.
Oh my God. Bring some
Yeah.
here, my friend. Um, Now, our listeners may be thinking, okay, that's too good. Um,
Mm.
um, how expensive is renting a place? Huh?
Now, that one is where the problem comes.
Oh, I'm sad now.
That's where, yeah, that's where the problem comes. But then it depends. Funnily, in towns,
Yeah.
it's very expensive to rent a house than in remote areas. Because, for example, here you can pay something like $5 to $10 for one room with electricity, while in town you can pay something like 30 no yeah $30 for the same house, one bedroom.
A day
So you see, you can pay like $30 in town.
per day.
No, per, or you are asking per day. We pay per month.
$30 per month?
Yeah, we pay per month.
But you have water? No.
No, no.
With water, how do you do with water, my friend?
With water, for example, here I'm living next to a lake, so we get our water from the lake.
Oh, easy.
Yeah.
In hotels, how do they do? Hotels, do they have water or they?
No, no, no. There are people who take water to the hotels.
Yeah.
Yeah, for a fee.
Oh, okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay. How interesting is life in different countries, don't you think?
Yeah, it's very interesting. But in town, there is piped water.
Oh, it depends, right?
Yeah, it depends with where you are.
Now, let's say you want a lot of water in the hotel because you are not very used to the lakes, right? Or
Yeah,
maybe you don't know how to swim. I don't know. There's people of all kinds. So,
yeah.
what would be a very expensive 1 month with water? What would you say it could be?
That one will depend with how much water you consume per day.
Okay, that's a good one. But do you have a, because in Colombia, you see, when you go to certain islands, you don't have a shower per se. You know what I mean? It's,
Yeah.
you have like two cups, two, not cups, but two big things full of water that you can use. How do they do it there? Do they put water in a shower or is not a shower? That's a good question.
Yeah, it's a good question. So here we have something. We call them jerry can. They can hold like 20 liters. So if you go somewhere, you can be given that one.
Oh,
If you go to a hotel,
yeah.
so you can use that one.
And that one, you transportate that, or it goes above your head. How does that work?
No, we usually carry them with you see the ladies carry them on their heads.
Okay.
Yeah, they carry them on their heads as they transport them to the house.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, yeah.
Boy, I'm learning things today, and our listeners are learning. I think this show is pretty fun, and I'm sure our listeners are getting more educated about things because I wanted to do the show not only about how is to be visually impaired there and everything, but how is life in general in Kenya, and it's very interesting. And for our,
Actually,
yeah,
I I used to think that life is very hard here in Kenya.
yeah,
But now, if you are telling me that a kilo of meat is like 15 to
it's,
$20, I see. Then that means life
it's not.
must be. Yeah, it's very different from what I thought.
It's very different, my friend. It's it's very interesting how things progress and how things evolve and how things change. And in some ways they still the same as well in other areas. And when it comes to prices, let me tell you something. When you
Yeah,
go to the supermarket here in Colombia, in Bogota, in the capital, we're talking about very, very expensive things. I mean, let me tell you, um, a lunch for one person,
yeah,
it's gonna be not fancy or anything, of course, very, very simplistic one. It's
yeah,
gonna be easily that ten $10 or 10.
yeah,
Um, so it's not very cheap. It's not very cheap. I mean, when I think $2 30x, I'm like, wow. um, Seems your students are getting in. So I have one last question, my friend. Is
yeah.
how can people contact you if they want to learn more about your beautiful country and the beautiful country of Africa and yourself?
I am I am on Facebook,
Okay.
Dailon Gore, and my email is also on. I'm also on Skype, Dailon Gore, so they can contact me on any way that they can find easy.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect, Dylan. Thank you so much for your time. This interview has been very rewarding to me, to our listeners. We will need to check for a way to get to Kenya because
Yeah.
what a great country. Thank you so much for your time and your expertise, Dylan.
Okay.
For our
Thank
listeners,
you very much.
thank you, my friend. And for our listeners, remember to always smile and be happy. And if you want to reach out to me, you can email me at lowvisionbureau@gmail.com. So this is Alvaro from LVB SHOW. Good night.